Today we're going to show you a little hack on how to get a really good gaming PC for really cheap, but it's not going to look like a gaming PC.
It's using a PC that looks like an old graphics card because it basically is. It's using a PS5 APU, was from a server rack, but we're going to turn it into a Steam console after a word from today's sponsor.
Listen, building a gaming PC is only part of the process. Once you finish planning your perfect gaming PC build to get the best price performance, you need to make sure to install and activate Windows 11 with today's video sponsor, GVG Mall. Use our link in the description down below to find the Windows 11 key. Use code TB20 on checkout to save even more money, upping your price to performance game. Then you'll get a copy of the key sent straight to you. Take that key, throw it into a Windows 11 PC of your choice during the install process or after the install is done, and boom, you now have an activated Windows 11 with access of all the features it has to offer. Use our link down below and use code TB20 on checkout and you'll save some money on your Windows activation. Big thanks again to GVG Mall for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back to the video, shall we?
So this is actually a product from ASRock that may look like a graphics card to you, but it is actually a full-blown PC that's missing just a couple of parts. And funny enough, these are designed for Bitcoin mining. That's why it's the BC-250, the Bitcoin Miner 250. And they used to just be on these big server racks with tons of fans blowing air through them, and this was their destiny. They were born to die mining Bitcoin. And you know, once Bitcoin dropped and Ethereum and all that, they started becoming very unprofitable. So now, for a long time, they've been flooding the eBay market as like e-waste, basically. Nobody knew what to do with them because it was kind of like a very proprietary item, but it had some really good bones to it. And the Linux community has been really cool about these, and they've actually released a driver update that allows you to play games on them and install your own Linux distro.
And the main specs of this mini PC, because if you look at this thing, this is the final form, by the way. We're going to talk more about our final contraption we put together, because when you buy it on its own, in theory, you could slap up an old power supply and get it to work, maybe slap a fan on it, and it'll work temporarily, but you do want to do a little modification to get a permanent solution, and even then, this is a very basic permanent solution. There are people who make full cases for these that you can actually 3D print or buy directly on eBay to really make this a perfect little Steam console. But we do need to talk about this little APU, because that is what the star of this system is. It's basically the PS5 APU, which the main key specs are 6-core 12-threaded processor that has 24 CUs on an RDNA 2 GPU, has 16 gigs of unified GDDR6 RAM that is shared across the iGPU and the system memory, which we'll talk about a modded BIOS you should install on this to get the best bang for buck out of it, that allows you to change the amount that is allocated to the APU versus the system memory. Very important you do that, and it's very easy with some tutorials using links down below. And it comes with one M.2 slot, but it is limited to PCI 2.0 by 2 bandwidth, which is quite slow. You can see the NVMe slot on ours right here. We installed a 1TB SSD, which we'll talk about here in just a second, and it does cause boot times to be a little bit slow. But when you install the distro that we're focusing on today's video, and what the other tech YouTubers have focused on this video, because this is not an original concept, by the way. A lot of creators are hopping on this, and unfortunately making the price a little more expensive, but at the time of recording this video, you can find these still for about $145. Definitely a price increase over what they used to be. You could find these when they were worth nothing for like $50, $40. Sometimes people were paying $200 for the full rack of 12 of them. I saw, I think it was Craft Computing did a video about that, where he got it for like $200, $300 for a full rack of them, and now you can make a ton of these little mini PCs, so good on him for that. But what we have is the finished form right here. But before we show you guys how we got to this finished form, let's go over all the steps that led up to it and how you can take a BC-250 yourself and turn it into a Steam machine. All right, guys, so here is our BC-250 in its purest of form, without any cooling or anything added. And you might be wondering at home, how do we cool this thing? Right now, it's just a giant heatsink, and to answer your question, there's a bunch of different ways you can do that. Now, the biggest thing you just need to focus on is getting air. See if I can get the camera to focus on this. Focus, focus, there you go. You get air through this cutout right here, because as we talked about, this was designed to be in a server rack, so air would just blow through all these different cards while they're sitting like this, and the air would properly cool this at like a bajillion RPM. It'd run really loud. All that air running through this heatsink would allow it to properly cool. Now, obviously, we don't really have another way to cool it. And if you look at the front here, this heatsink is actually covered. There's nothing that allows air to go into the die directly, which you can actually just kind of cut slits into this and put a CPU fan on top for a more permanent solution, which I would recommend once you see how our final solution does perform, because it is a little underwhelming. But either way, for our temporary setup, I took 2 blower style fans that were connected to a plastic 3D printed shroud that we're gonna be using for another video where we tested a Tesla GPU that did not have cooling as well, was meant for a server rack as well. I temporarily used that, plugged up to the fan header that is located on here. There is a CPU fan header in this bottom corner right here. I plugged it up to that CPU fan header and kind of just propped it up against this opening right here so air would blow into it. And then I also stuck a fan on top of this heatsink. Now, as I mentioned, I didn't do any of the cutting in the mods to make it actually properly work, but that fan on there at least pulled a little bit of heat off of the heatsink. I don't really think it did that much because the temperatures were pretty similar in this configuration versus the final configuration, but again, your mileage may vary depending on what you want to do. There's a lot of different options, or you can buy a pre-made case from somebody who's selling it online that comes with fans and instructions on how to modify it yourself. That's the beauty of the BC-250. There's a ton of different things you can do. And the same goes for powering the BC-250. Now, the BC-250 requires this little 8-pin power connector, this one right here, and that's it for power. The recommended wattage is about 350 watts if you want to make sure you're properly getting enough juice to this thing. So you need a power supply that has an 8-pin power connector that can push out at least 350 watts. And the one downside that comes from powering this thing is there is no power button on this device. Now, what I did to work around this, and the power supply I went with to make this all work, was an Apevia Flex power supply, which is a small form factor power supply that works really well for really tiny mini ITX builds. It's even smaller than a standard SFX power supply. Pay about $49 for that. Realistically, for price to performance, you don't need to do this, but it allowed me to make our full setup look really compact once we put it all together because it is a very small power supply. Again, depends on how much you want to invest into this. That is definitely on the higher end of what I would recommend people invest into this. But then all I did was take the 8-pin power from that power supply, plug it up to the BC-250. We have a 24-pin adapter that goes over top of the 24-pin that jumps the 2 pins that turns on the power supply. And then from there, once you jump it, the BC-250 will boot right up. Now, the jumper we use is one that we have hundreds of because it comes with a bunch of power supplies that we bought before in the past just for testing power supply stability. But we'll put a little diagram on screen somewhere right here. McAllister, you'll find one of showing you which pins you do need to jump on your power supply manually if you don't want to, well, get a little adapter that goes on there. All you gotta do is take 2 wires, plug it into those 2 pins on the 24 pin, and then it will jump itself so that you can get power to the device. And lastly, for storage, again, we have a pretty slow NVMe slot right here, so you can put whatever you really want. Go on the used market, find yourself an NVMe for cheap, which is not really a given nowadays, is it, with how expensive storage is getting? But we put a 1 terabyte Gen 3 drive in there, which I think is a good amount of storage for installing a bunch of games. You can go with less, you can go with more. Really, your miles may vary. You're gonna be installing everything to this drive as well, so make sure you have enough room after installing Bazzite to be able to get the games that you want. Now, this step, you could just get a Bazzite USB, install it, and get this thing up and running with an OS. That's all you really have to do. But what is really important, and something that I do recommend a lot, and I will leave a link down below to Old Lamer's YouTube channel with the links to the videos that helped me out a lot in getting this set up. I don't even want to try to copy the guides because he's absolutely perfected them. And I'd rather just send you all to a creator who did a good job making it rather than trying to impersonate it myself. The BIOS mod. The BIOS mod on this thing is very important, mainly because the 16 gigs of unified memory that is on this thing that is designed not just for your system memory, but also the VRAM on your iGPU. In current configurations, it's limited in the BIOS to 8 gigs for the system and 8 gigs for the iGPU, or I believe it can also do 12 gigs for the system and 4 gigs for the iGPU, but that is it. There's no other configuration you can go with. But the BIOS mod, it allows you to be able to allocate different amounts of VRAM, and more specifically, you can allocate 512 megabytes for the VRAM on the iGPU, which is important because when Bazzite or a bunch of operating systems detect 512 megabytes, they know to auto-adjust the amount of VRAM when it gets in game based on what it actually needs. It doesn't lock you down to certain allocations, and it limits you from getting in a scenario where you launch a game that doesn't need more than, let's say, 2 gigs of VRAM, but you have 8 stuck allocated on that GPU, and now you have 8 gigs less of system memory that's going to cause performance loss. It allows it to adjust automatically based on what it actually needs. But the mod is very simple. Watch his videos. They're very well done. And it's very easy to take a flash drive, modify it, install the BIOS mod, and then as you can see on screen here, you go through this whole step process, type a couple commands that he tells you to do, and you also back up the BIOS as well just to be safe. I would recommend you do that just in case you brick something like I could have. And then from there, the BIOS is now good to go, and you are ready to install Bazzite, which if you guys haven't seen our countless videos on Bazzite, Bazzite is a Linux distro that is very similar to SteamOS, has the same interface and everything, and this interface is what's going to make this look like a Steam console. Now, installing Bazzite is very simple. We'll take a flash drive, make a bootable USB just like you would any other PC, and then you plug it into your BC-250 like I did, and just like that, we landed on the Bazzite splash screen with no errors whatsoever. I also just made sure I went into the settings to verify the driver version and everything to show what's popping up, because Because again, with this Linux kernel update that does work on Bazzite, there's a driver natively on here for this BC-250. So you don't have to go and install any other drivers. You literally just install Bazzite and you're up and running. Now, I did verify, it looks good, we're good to go. There is more you can do within Bazzite, like overclocking this GPU and everything, but in my temporary setup where, well, we had a fan blowing in here and it really wasn't a good permanent solution, and there are way better permanent solutions out there that'll cool this thing better. I didn't dive into the overclocking options because I just wanted to see this in its purest form, but there are a lot of things you can do with overclocking and guides from Old Lamer as well on how you can do that if you do copy a more honest cooling solution versus the one that I have. So the cooling solution you see on screen, the really basic one, we're gonna be using that when we're doing our testing before we show you guys how we 3D printed our final solution. So we're gonna go ahead and dive into some benchmarks. I know this is a long process, but hopefully this was enjoyable for you guys to learn how to set up this BC-250 in a very simple form. And then we'll show you guys after we do the benchmarks, when we show you this thing is awesome at gaming, how you can make it even better with a good cooling solution and how we ended up with our final product.
All right, guys, we're starting off with a tough one. We got Arc Raiders in here, Arc Raiders 3. I'm just kidding. So right now, we're actually running 1080p with FSR 3 set to balanced and no ray tracing or static. And we're running medium preset. I think we're gonna need to lower some settings here, but let's just give this a go first.
The fact that it launches kind of blows my mind because this is a modern game on what basically was a mining GPU.
And it was used.
And it was used and abused. I feel like I need to get a tetanus shot after touching this graphics card. But the fact that it's even running a game like Arc Raiders right now, pretty cool. Looks like VRAM, we're using about 4 gigs of VRAM again. I think system memory does hold us back because we only have 16 gigs shared total across the board. So that will hold us back.
Actually, maybe this isn't the one I think. No, this is the one that runs you over. I remember now. Yeah, this thing's it's pretty cool. I mean, it's still crazy how cheap it is, and it's. I guess you can kind of just view it as a mini PC, really.
Yeah, basically a mini PC that's going to take a little modifications because temperature-wise, it's doing okay. CPU we're at like 81 degrees, GPU 76. That's without our potential like shell. I don't even want to call it case. It's basically like a shell that we're going to put it in that allows us to direct airflow better and have like a stand for it. So
I mean, it's safe to say these settings we're basically getting between like 40 and I'm gonna say 60 FPS with some dips and like stutters. So let's just see if we can make this run a little better, because I think we can. Or it'll be like a lot of the games these days where no matter what settings you do, it always just runs goofy.
Curious how it responds to FSR.
Yeah, I'll try, because FSR was already on, but it was on balance. So we're gonna keep that on. We're gonna go medium settings, and we're gonna go to performance FSR.
The frame time graph is a little bouncy, but it's not too bad.
I feel that we've gained maybe about an average of 10 FPS. With less like, I mean, you can still see if I go crazy with it, we still get like those load-ins, but like, look at this tree.
Oh, that tree is not even
there.
Oh, there it is.
It's definitely like, it's almost like Minecraft rendering chunks, you know what I mean? That's what it feels like, but it's not bad. Like, I could play on this, and especially if I'm someone who's on a budget, maybe I'm also like younger and this is my first build that I'm kind of playing with, I would just think this is cool, and the fact that I'm playing a basically AAA title in terms of the graphics, I'd be pretty hyped off this.
And we did talk about during the intro we have not filmed yet, but the one limitation that can be seen, especially with these newer games, is that M.2 slot is a PCI 2.0 by 2 M.2 slot. So load times are not going to be as good, and also we could experience some like load-in issues
that
like
could be
this.
Some of this.
Where some of the textures are happening. So that part kind of sucks. It will hold us back because again, these weren't really designed to run much more than like a Hive OS or something very lightweight. Running a full-fledged operating system and launching games, not really what they were designed for.
But it is cool though that even with a lot of limitations, it can still work. And that's kind of how the whole PC space in general is. There's always limitations with things. Some people think it means it's e-waste or that it's unusable. But that's what we're here to prove, is that that doesn't always mean that. You can actually still, I could have done that in real life and not taken any health damage. But yeah, it just goes to show that like you can do some really cool experimental things, and you can make this work for cheap.
And it's cool because these were basically e-waste. I remember seeing a video where somebody got one of the actual farms of 12 of them and paid maybe like $200 for them at one point and got the whole thing. And now, obviously, now there's a use case, there's a distro and everything. People are gonna be like, oh, well, now we gotta buy these and use them up. Don't overpay for them, obviously. They're cool, but don't overpay. I think this is just a really cool PC gamer project if you want like a little Steam machine.
Be friendly. Oh, I see him. Let me in. Let me in. Let me in.
Let a man in. Hey, let's go.
I heard him say get. I first I thought they were saying get him, but they were saying get in, get in. Is that person down?
I think they were.
All right, well, hey, Arc Raiders actually ran, and don't forget, there is always the, I forget often, 720p is an option, or like in between 1080p, and resolution changes get you some big FPS differences.
Next game. All right, gamers, we are now in Spider-Man 2. Again, we're going really demanding to start things off here, and another game that I'm actually surprised is running. Running is a loose term at times here, but we'll go ahead and show you guys what settings we're currently using on this PC. So we currently have 1080p, a little FSR3 set to balanced on low settings, and we're getting, what, times 60, but I would say more like a 50 to 60 FPS average. I would give you the average and 1% lows, but I cannot do that, unfortunately, on this. Definitely not like incredibly smooth. I think your best bet would be one of the, which I will test here in just a second to see if it works, is maybe turn an FPS cap to 60, run some more aggressive upscaling, or upscaling that target 60 FPS, and then throw a little frame gen on there. You might get a smoother experience, because this is not ideal. I will say this is the hottest I've seen the CPU get, though. We're at like 82. We hit 85 at one point swinging around the city, so that's the highest I've seen it get. I don't think that's necessarily contributing to the frame drops, but that is currently something to keep an eye on.
Definitely has moments where it feels pretty playable, and then it gets like those lag spikes.
I'm scared that this controller's broken.
Really?
From the drops, finally. I don't think this works. Oh God, oh no.
Uh-oh.
It's fallen so many times, guys. It can only survive so much. Yeah, his controller is on a mount next to us, and we knock it off like every day. I say we, it's mainly me. I knock it off like 5 times a day. And now I think it has finally decided to, okay, oh, it's working now. Okay, maybe it was a little second. It's a little sticky. Where do we need to go? Where's the ambulance? Ugh, without the upscaling magic that PS5 has.
Yeah, the proprietary upscaling.
The proprietary upscaling that's built for the hardware. That's really why you're seeing a lot of this stuff, just with upscaling, not feeling like you're like, wow, PS5. That's the main reason why. I did it. All right. For the sake of testing, let's go to, I'm trying to see what I'm looking at here. Display and graphics. Let's scroll down. Let's turn FSR to target or frame rate of 60, and then frame gen. Will this work?
I was targeting 60, but it's
Targeting, ooh, wow. Ooh, that upscaling looks goofy. Ooh. Does not look amazing, I'll be honest with you.
It's smooth though.
It's smooth, but it looks a little rough around the edges. That's some, oh goodness, that's some frame gen right there, baby. But it's running. That's kind of cool. Now again, this isn't exactly what this is designed for. It's cool they can even launch these games and play at like lower FPS, especially considering how cheap these things were going for at one point. But let's switch over to some more normal games, like couch games that I would expect to play on a PC that's $100-something. That we kind of modified into a gaming system. Let's play some Source games.
So now we are playing a true classic, Left 4 Dead 2. My sensitivity is off the wazoo.
It's insane.
But we're getting some crazy FPS right now. I'm gonna kill a couple zombies and then show it to you guys. This game used to be so scary. It still is kind of scary. I'm kind of scared right now.
Especially when you have T-Rexes running around.
T-Rexes, the classic workshop mod. So right now the settings we are running are 1080p. This was long before upscaling too, guys. With basically like high settings, so close to maxed out, and it is running real good. And this is a good example of like those, couch games that I was talking about.
Yeah, good couch games. This feels like something that, Steam Machine Vision, play these like Valve games on the couch. Again, Jackson's playing with keyboard and mouse, but this works great with controller as well if you're someone who can use a controller. But yeah, running keyboard and mouse if you want to. It's just cool that it seems like this works really, really well for these older games, and it might just not have the oomph for like modern Unreal Engine level games to be able to run constantly, but it can launch them, which is cool.
Yep. No, and there's so many good games that are older. We're definitely advocates for that. Try out some old games on Steam because they still are multiplayer supported. You can still run them on just about anything, and they still have some really good stories to them and everything, and they're cheap too.
Very, very cheap. Yep, very, very cheap.
We're gonna go ahead and do this whole mission.
He's gonna run it all.
But yeah, no, the FPS is crazy, and I'd expect to see this in like Team Fortress 2, Half-Life, Gary's Mod, Portal, like any of those like OG Valve games. You're gonna get some pretty good FPS.
Speaking of Half-Life, we got Half-Life.
Half-Life.
trying to figure out what these controller controls are. Kind of ridiculous. But I'll go ahead and show you guys the settings we're running real quick. So we go over to video. Currently running 1080p, very high settings. Reflect all the water details. Again, this is going to be very, very similar to when we were playing a good old, I'm forgetting what game we just played. Left 4 Dead. Yeah, same kind of vibe. Left 4 Dead. When we're playing Left 4 Dead, we're getting very similar FPS numbers. Again, this is an older game, but a fun one that you can play with a controller. If I figure out why I can't jump, I don't really know what's going on with that. Perfect for this. And I think the biggest thing I have to harp on, and I think this thing is really, really cool, is just make sure you don't overpay for it. Just like anything, when people in the PC industry and us, I mean, we're at no fault of this. Whenever creators find stuff, it definitely goes up in price. I wouldn't pay more for an entire configuration with a power supply and everything, more than like the $250 we paid for everything. Anything above that, you're kind of losing the value unless you just want to do it for the fun of it, because it is a fun little project. I had a lot of fun doing the BIOS mod. Oh God, I almost hit that. I say almost did. I hit that bomb. It just didn't explode on me for whatever reason. And yeah, unless you're doing it just for the fun of it and a little tinker hobby, I wouldn't spend much more than that. Definitely reuse as much stuff you have if you are somebody who tinkers a lot. Oh, no, oh God. Oh, no. Get away from me. I have a Magnum. We're gonna play one more game. We have Peak, which is another fun game that really makes a lot of sense for a system like this. We tested on a lot of mini PCs, and sometimes they struggle a bit with just how the world generates and everything. I'd be curious to see what this runs like. Then we're gonna be diving in to figuring out how we're gonna build the case for this, or the open frame. Show you guys what it all looks like once we pull it off our 3D print bed, and then we'll do some temperature comparison with a CS2 benchmark between before and after to see if we get any more performance and better temperatures. But hey, this thing's a lot of fun. Let's move on to one more game.
We are now playing Peakerton, or Peak, as it's actually called. And this is a awesome Steam game, really similar to Are We There Yet? They both have actually surprisingly high graphics that you can turn on, but it's a really fun game to play with your friends. Another couch game. I play mouse and keyboard because I'm an intellectual. I actually think. No, I'm just kidding.
He uses his noggin.
Obviously, if you're playing on a couch setup, you're probably going to be on controller. But we're getting like 100 FPS. Let's see what settings we're running, because this is one of those games, I almost like this trend of indie games being able to have really high settings. So it's kind of weird.
It's like high-low.
High-low. I'll keep it like that, sure. High-low, which is what the game kind of recommended. And we're getting 100 FPS. I don't think we're really getting any spikes either.
And I will say, in these scenarios, this thing is definitely better than the really cheap mini PCs on the market.
Yeah.
Like, you could tell it's way better, because these other ones, you'd have to run 720p, you'd be running low, and you'd probably be getting dips below 60 at times. This one, we're actually running basically native 1080p on lower details, getting 100 FPS, which is nice.
Yep, and yeah, there's a lot of indie games like this. The one thing I love telling people is Steam has like 70,000 plus games on there, and obviously most of them are going to be like alt and indie games that you've never heard of. So it's always worth browsing, and this mini PC can probably play 95% of those pretty well.
And now to make this mini PC even better, we're going to put her in a case. Well, potentially a case. We'll see what that ends up looking like.
Feet.
We're gonna give it some feet, and we're gonna give it a home, and we're gonna make it look absolutely exquisite. And yeah, this BC-250 has been a lot of fun to mess with. Let's make sure it looks really good as we wrap this video up.
So obviously before the benchmarks, we started with something like this. And so what I decided to do when Matt tasked me with making this thing maybe run a little cooler was basically go into a program called Tinkercad. It's free, it's online, it's a CAD software. And I designed this little fan shroud, which we already had the fans. This was actually from an old project where we bought one of those Tesla cards. We never got it working. So I just basically took the fans out of that 3D print, fit them into this. It took me two tries. So on the second one, I got it to fit like perfectly. And you can see it kind of covers a lot of the shroud. Obviously, I could have gotten a little more fancy and like had it go further in some spots and maybe kind of choke extra air out. I didn't really know if that'd be honestly beneficial though, or if it'd be worse. So I just figured this will work, and I made it to where it's the same height as these feet that I 3D printed, and that was the first attempt. I just measured real quick and just printed them, and then I did hot glue them on because hot glue is removable, so it's not a huge deal if you decide to do something different with it later. And it's solid. I mean, it doesn't move. Before I did this, Matt had already adhesive the power supply. You do have this massive aluminum backplate, full aluminum too. It's brushed. It's nice. So you can adhesive stuff to it. So you can almost make it kind of like a hat, you know what I mean? You could put some other stuff on here as well. I guess another thing that you could do that'd be kind of crazy is like one of those M.2 like graphics cards. Although the bandwidth limitation, yeah, I don't know. But there's definitely some cool options you could do with it.
Yeah, in terms of fan headers, by the way, if you are trying to figure out what you're working with, there is one fan header on here that's a standard fan header. We used a speed reducer on ours because, well, we did do some benchmarking with it and you might have been able to hear it in the background. Let's actually power this on in its final form so you can hear what it sounds like.
It's not too bad.
It's not too bad. It is more audible than you would think it would be.
Oh, also, you know, I wanted to show you something I noticed. I think it does have a power button because I pressed one of those buttons the other day.
Did you?
And it turned off.
Interesting.
I don't know if that was coincidence.
Every other creator I've seen said there was no power button, so let me see if this actually works as a power button.
Well, it was one of them. I don't know which one.
This one's so rusted out, I can't even tell.
You're not even pressing.
Okay, so it does shut down with that. We'll turn on. Let's turn this off. I'm curious if it'll let me turn it back on if I leave the jumper in.
No, another freaky thing you could do is a Pico power supply. One of those ones where it's basically a laptop power brick disattached. Could do that if it's enough wattage.
Well, the power supply's still running right now, so maybe. Because it's still jumped.
Oh, yeah, it's just ready to go, basically. Yeah.
So in theory, if you wanted to shut down the system, you can run the power on that. The power supply would still run constantly.
Might not be great.
It's not great for it probably, but that is an option as well. Or you can just jump it every single time. I've seen some people do like a momentary switch where they have a switch attached to it, so you can literally hit a power button and jump it that way instead of actually plugging this into the 24 pin. But there are a bunch of different mods you can do. This is the most simple version possible, and we're gonna tell you guys how you can win this one, the extra one we ended up with.
So yeah, we're actually gonna be giving away the nicer one. We're gonna hang on or sell the kind of ugly and ratchet one. This one looks like it was almost never used, so discord.gg/toastybros. Once this video goes live, go to our giveaway section more than likely, or announcements. It'll be posted somewhere. Just make sure you join our Discord server because we post about giveaways, we post about every single live stream we do every morning. It's definitely where you can find some of the best deals.
Speaking of deals, we recently hired a new member to the Toasty Bros, Snark. Shout out to you, Snark. He's gonna be our deal master over on discord.gg and our Toasty Deals Twitter account, where he's gonna be posting daily deals that you guys can take advantage of. And we figure why not kick off his new role at Toasty Bros with a giveaway over on Discord to get some new people in there to take advantage of those deals. So once again, discord.gg/Toasty Bros, join the Discord server, go to the giveaway section, and you'll learn more about how you can enter to win this awesome BC-250.
So make sure if you guys find any other cool deals like this, that you guys let us know down below, because we always love taking a look at the really weird and obscure tech that's kind of up our alley. And make sure you guys check out our other 2 YouTube channels and also our twitch.tv/ToastyBros. And do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
See you guys on the next one. Bye-bye.
So one of these may be for sale at PCBros.tech, maybe the finished one. And you know, something that's really cool is if you ever want Matt or I or any of the members to sign anything, when you place an order, just ask. We'll do it.
We'll do it. We'll devalue our signature every single time. It's so high, guys. It can only get higher. Just kidding.
Stonks.
Use code Toasty Bros on checkout when you buy something at PC Bros. You'll save 3% of your next purchase. See you guys later.